You know, as a semi-gamer veteran, and one who has either played or watched Let's Plays of horror games, I feel like I need to do a top 10 horror games again, but with a twist. This is not a part 2 of top 10 horror games. This is a Redux version of the one for the past. Woo! Yeah! Alright, let's start the intro. Hey pups, RP here, and welcome back to my channel. You know, this time of year, two of my favorite things come together to be creative in regards to one of my favorite genres. Halloween plus video games equals horror games. Whether I play these games or just watch Let's Players have the crap scared out of them, and I end up laughing my ass off at the YouTube gamers like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye freaking out over a jump scare and getting hell entertained not just by their commentaries, but by the stories the horror games are telling not just those playing it, but the audience watching the Let's Player. Today, I'm making a total 100% redux of the past top 10 horror games I've made. The one I made in the past was meh at best. Plus, I added in some games that were a bit on the controversial side. One of them being Yandere Simulator, created by the definition of humanoid trash, Yandere Dev, so I'm remaking it for this year. For this list, I'm going to be sticking to strictly horror games, horror being the main genre of the games mentioned on this list. My opinions are obviously going to be different from yours, so all I ask is that you be respectful of mine and everyone else's opinions on these games as a whole. Now, you know the drill, let's go over some rules. I'm going to be excluding any fan-made games or games related to creepypasta. So games like Slender the 8 Pages or Sonic.exe aren't going to appear on this list at all. I'm also excluding games like Yandere Simulator because, let's face it, Yandere Dev is a piece of shit, and the game is more than likely never going to be to 100% completion. The game's main genre has to be horror or horror related, so sadly games like Lollipop Chainsaw, despite being my favorite, won't really count considering I see it more as a dark comedy with horror elements sprinkled into it. Same goes for games like Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess. Despite having horror elements placed within the world it was created to have, they aren't considered horror games. Even though, in my objectively correct opinion, they should be. Also won't be counting Luigi's Mansion, even though I want to. I won't due to the fact that it's not considered a horror game either. Well, not to me at least. Of course, this is strictly video game related, so no movie/TV based like the Walking Dead games here. The games can be either created by big name companies like Nintendo or Sega, for example, or they can be indie games themselves. As long as it's a video game, it counts. Also, spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't either played or watched Let's Plays of the games themselves. I'd recommend you either play the games yourself or go look at popular Let's Players play the games. And obviously, trigger warning that these games will have content not suitable for some viewers, so viewer discretion is obviously suitably and strongly advised. That being said, grab a bag of Doritos, nacho cheese is preferably the best flavor, prove me wrong, Mountain Dew, Code Red is best, gummy worms, and an extra pair of pants, just in case. And let's get started! Mint hints. You ever wondered what would happen if Blue's Clues became a creepypasta-based video game instead of a cutesy and educational preschool show for Nickelodeon's preschool block Nick Jr.? Well, you get mint hints. Not the little parody thing from Baby Looney Tunes, okay? The game. Maybe the title inspired the game? I don't know. Let's not look too deep into it, alright? FNAF may be to blame for the uprise and overrated genre of mascot horror, with the creations of games like Bendy and the Ink Machine, Poppy Playtime, and that one game with the raccoon and the Disney World / Disneyland knockoff. But this is what makes Mint's Hints a bit different. Created by AI and playing off similarly to Blue's Clues, because it's obviously a Blue's Clues horror parody, you end up going into the world of Mint Storybook Land and find out something definitely happened in this world of Mint's Hints. Instead of being a puppy, these characters are Vulpin-based characters. Mint, Fuchsia, Lilac, and Cream are now ghosts, and their spirits are obviously vengeful and restless, as well as the previous host Grant being missing, possibly. And seemingly most of the fault of everything happening in the game is to be blamed by the showrunner, Alistair Crumb. You're assisted by the help of other characters along the way, like Sprinkles the Cupcake, Sawy the Saw, one of my personal favorites, and Fungi the... I have no idea what he is, but he somewhat looks like he could be related to Huggy Wuggy from Poppy Playtime. That aside, as someone who's a bit of a Blue's Clues fan, and will look back on the show for nostalgic purposes, I feel like Mint's Hints is basically one of the most perfect horror stories of Blue's Clues today. While we have a bunch of Blue's Clues creepypastas, some better than others, this one is by far the best horror story game parody of Blue's Clues. And all I can say is, while it is kind of low on the list, it's basically the perfect Blue's Clues horror story based game we've gotten so far this year. The Coffin of Andy and Lele. Oh yeah, I'm serious. When it comes to horror games, especially those related to both indie and RPG maker, and much like mascot horror, there has to be a mix of two things. You have to have crudeness and cleverness with an added secret ingredient of graphic and grotesque elements. And that's what makes this game special, in a way. If you know who Lily Orchard is, look her up, she's a terrible person and totally gross. If you ask her what her favorite game of all time would be, it would probably be this, because one of the endings is, let's just say it'd be a pro shipper / pro fiction individual's dream. Ew! Yeah, we all know how that would go. But despite all that, these characters are obviously awful people. While trying to survive during a quarantine, both Andrew and Ashley are cannibals, murderers, and possible cult members, selling souls to the devil, and just overall terrible people. Ashley is a gaslighty and manipulative character, while Andrew is an asshole and can't really say no to Ashley, and are always on the verge of killing each other, but are also a controversial sibling-based relationship. As far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, I could hopefully be wrong on this point, but let's not talk about that anymore. Despite that, this is what makes it different and surprisingly popular from other horror games on this list. While Chapter 3 of the game has yet to be made and or announced at the time of this video's making, it's still an interestingly disturbing horror game for all the right reasons. Though I wouldn't really recommend to anyone watching. If you want to play the game or watch Let's Plays of it, it's your choice, and in my personal and best opinion, your funeral. Amanda the Adventurer Parts 1 and 2. If Mint's Hints is a Blue's Clues horror story, Amanda the Adventurer is a Dora the Explorer horror story. Amanda the Adventurer's first game starts out as Riley Parker receiving a letter from her Aunt Kate, who visits her in Ohio, with the only mentions being a VHS tape in her attic. Said VHS tapes contain various episodes of the show Amanda the Adventurer. The episodes become more disturbing the more they're watched, such as Amanda getting annoyed or frustrated when there's either a wrong answer given to her or her question not being answered, for example. And once an episode is over, there's a puzzle that needs to be solved. The game involves the mystery of what happened to the creator of the show, Sam Colton, and his adopted daughter Rebecca, who played Amanda in the show. In various endings of the game, you are killed by a demon version of Amanda, and dear God, is it horrifying! But in one ending, when Amanda asks if she can share a secret with you, she says she's out there somewhere. That's when the TV goes crazy! Riley stops it by throwing a brick at it, and is visited by a mysterious figure, seemingly someone who is either associated with Aunt Kate, Sam, and or Rebecca, or could possibly be Aunt Kate herself. The second game plays off similarly to the previous chapter, but picks up where the last game left off, with Riley and the mysterious figure going to the local library, with chapter 3 set to be released this year, maybe. I'm excited to see where the story will end or continue as far as the plot of the entire game goes. Honestly, the puzzle/escape room based horror story is something that is also very interesting and unique, especially for a game like Amanda the Adventurer. Still, I'm more focused on the story of the game itself rather than the gameplay entirely. But I'm excited to see where the game will end or continue if there's more than 3 chapters ahead for the story and plotline of the game itself. The Binding of Isaac. If you grew up in a very religious household with the same elements and themes of abuse, best leave or skip this part now while you can. The Binding of Isaac is a game that I found intriguing. Knowing my mom's side of the family is very religious, and anything that wasn't of the Christian/Jewish faith, it was against the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And seeing that I'm also a child of divorce and had to deal with an abusive mother myself, The Binding of Isaac is basically a bit of trauma core, but it's also weirdly comforting. Hear me out. The story starts out as Isaac and his mom being a happy family, until the mom watched a priest on TV and ends up in a mental health downward spiral, abusing her son to the point where he literally sees her as a fucking monster, crazily overly religious, and is damn near insane enough to do anything for her lord, such as killing her son. Thank God my mom never went that far, but still. The Binding of Isaac is a story any of us who grew up in an overly religious household can relate to. Sure, characters like Shadow the Hedgehog from the Sonic games and N from Pokemon, correct me if I'm wrong, are equally characters that are relatable in terms of subject of traumatization, but The Binding of Isaac is the one that would win the gold medal of relatable traumatization of story and characters in Traumatized Character Olympics. Don't worry, Shadow. You'll always be number one in my book. But being a child of divorce, growing up in a religious household, and dealing with an abusive parent, and this game having all three themes while having really cool game designs in the form of bosses, demons, monsters, the 7 deadly sins, and story arc with multiple endings, while horrifying in their own right, this is definitely a horror game that has relatable written all over it. Until Dawn. Murder mystery, Wendigos. A similar game plot of choices you choose will affect the gameplay and storyline of the game, almost similar to Undertale, but in a more horrifyingly fucked up manner, aka the butterfly effect, with a multitude of endings depending on which story path you choose, as well as some fucked up imagery to boot. Now that's a horror game you've got me hooked on. Granted, while I'm more of an Undertale fanatic, and the fact that The Quarry, which was rumored to be the original sequel to Until Dawn, was a bit of a letdown for me and everyone else. They should have had the Kumbaya song from the trailer at the end credits, damn it! And this movie was also rumored to be bad, and the game version of it was better. I'll be the judge of that when I'm able to watch it when it comes out on DVD and or streaming. Until Dawn is a murder mystery game with one of the most infamous / famous Native American legends of all time, And my personal favorite one is something you know is a good combo of the two. I always hate it when games say, "Your choices matter," but then you end up making a bad choice no matter what you choose. But when it comes to games like Undertale and Until Dawn, your choices matter. Undertale has the three choices of pacifist, genocide, and neutral paths, while Until Dawn is literally the personification of the butterfly effect. With its remake, a rumored sequel in the making, I'm already excited to see what more this game is going to bring in the future, and I'm glad I was introduced to the game via binge-watching Markiplier Let's Plays. Also, the Oak Death song totally slaps!
I've seen this down there, and I'd give anything to unsee it.
Bendy and the Ink Machine. What? Bendy and the Ink Machine isn't in the top 3? Well, it's in the top 5, so it ain't so bad. Bendy and the Ink Machine was basically the big thing that took on the mascot horror genre that FNAF created. And the Meatly is a true genius. This wasn't just based on the 1900s Disney cartoons, no. It was also, in fact, based on the era Disney eventually took over other classic cartoons like Felix the Cat, Betty Boop, you know, the cartoons that had their spotlight stolen by Disney. You play as a former employee at an old studio that created the Bendy cartoons, and, well, obviously things go wrong. It was a giant ink machine creating ink monsters and bringing various characters like Boris and Alice Angel to life, and the ink demon known only as Bendy is trying to kill you! I haven't gotten around to its sequel, but the original is obviously the superior choice. And while the original was the start, its full completion of development has highly improved the gameplay since it was first released on Steam. Plus, it's an amazingly cool game. Prove me wrong. Resident Evil, Biohazard, and Village. Call it cheating, but these two chapters out of all the Resident Evil franchise are arguably the best. Biohazard is basically what some fans call the prequel to the first Resident Evil games before it. Mia Winters was set off 3 years ago to look after a girl named Evelyn, a girl possessing what she calls a quote-unquote gift, but in reality, it's an infection. And her husband, Ethan, believed her to be dead 3 years after her disappearance, and having not heard from her during that time, only to then receive a message saying she's stuck in Louisiana. Ethan travels there and tries to rescue her, seeing she was possibly kidnapped. Oh, she was definitely kidnapped, alright. Tries to escape, only to find himself being hunted down by a possessed Mia and Jack Baker. The entire Baker family, save for Zoe, have all been affected by Evelyn's gift and are all too far gone, and they hunt down Ethan like prey. It's up to Ethan to not only free the Baker family from Evelyn's infection, but to rescue Mia and to stop that fucked up Esther/Linda Blair lookalike once and for all. Evelyn's one of the multitude of reasons why I'm never having children. And never have I wanted to yeet a child like Evelyn into the sun. Village takes place a long while after the events of Biohazard, with Mia and Ethan having a daughter, Rose, and settling down in Europe, only later to be attacked by Umbrella Corp and taken away. Later, Ethan enters a small village searching for Rose and comes across a bunch of monsters and a court of certain leaders. Heisenberg, Benevito, and her doll Angie, Moreau. Fun fact, this villain is based on a book character, and the character everyone and Markiplier simps for, Lady Dimitrescu, and last but not least, Mother Miranda. Ethan now has to fight Lycans, other monsters, and some horrifying beasts, and the leaders of the Mother's court, and save Rose, whom was apparently kidnapped by Mother Miranda. Why? To revive her own daughter, Ava. Are we sure Evelyn isn't Miranda's true daughter here? That aside, out of all the Resident Evil games, these two are amazing! Not just in graphics, design, and gameplay, but in storyline and plot as well. In our two Resident Evil games, I highly recommend anyone to watch Let's Plays of or play themselves.
My daughter! My Eva!
5 Nights at Freddy's. And third place ain't bad, right? The game that not only started the horror subgenre of mascot horror, a multi-million-dollar franchise complete with merch, a fan base as large as Pokemon and Sonic combined, an amazing movie and sequel coming soon, pretty projects including One Night at Flumpy's and Willy's Wonderland, but also revived Scott Cawthon's gaming career. Originally, FNAF was going to be his last project before he gave up on the game development dream, but seeing how successful the first game was, it was pretty much fate for the guy. The premise is pretty simple from the first game. You get a job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, a Chuck E. Cheese knockoff, as a night guard, and you simply watch over the place at night to make sure nobody breaks in and steals something or does something in the restaurant. Simple, right? Wrong! The place is either haunted or controlled via animatronics, roaming around the pizzeria and wanting to stuff you in a Freddy Fazbear suit. Most likely seeing you as an exoskeleton of an animatronic. But with each new chapter of the game franchise itself, there's a multitude of lore behind it, from endgames, fan-based, and even from the FNAF movie, there's lore upon lore that I won't get into to keep this video from getting any longer. Still, I recommend you give this game a try if you're interested, or watch PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, or even Markiplier, the king of Five Nights at Freddy's, play the game, and them reacting to a jump scare is hilarious. I, like Josh Scorcher, however, seem to be immune to these jump scares. Maybe that's why I'm not as popular. Among the Sleep. And allow me to introduce some more of my own personal and healthy dose of trauma dumping! Yay! As a child of divorce and a child of an abusive parent, neither of them were addicts to drugs or alcohol, thank God, but my mother was a toxic and problematic person. My father wasn't perfect either, he had issues, but at least he was the better parent and had the capability of loving his only daughter. That aside, the game seems innocent enough at the beginning. You're a 2-year-old baby celebrating your birthday with your mother, and in some moments of the game where certain events happen, such as the mysterious father dropping off your present, aka Teddy, no, not that Teddy, where you feel something's wrong and the colors and images start to distort when you hear your parents argue. Later in the game, you find your mom's missing and you have to go on a quest to find her, only to find a bunch of monsters that represent your parents are trying to kill you. Apparently the cult monster is your mysterious father we never see, and Lady Beast is your alcoholic mother. The mom, while doing with a lot, the divorce, taking care of her son, and hoping to get custody of him, she finds solace in alcohol. Yeah, traumatic fun for the whole family! In all seriousness, this is the kind of horror game some can find depressing comfort in. This game is heavily relatable and strangely comforting to those of us with parents who are possible addicts, and to those of us who were children of abuse and or divorce. It's also got a very interesting plot. Like, if Rugrats was a horror-based series instead of just a fun little cartoon about talking babies. If you want a horror game that makes you, as a child of divorce, like me, and such, or abusive and such, or possible parents who are toxic addicts, this game is for you. Before we get to number 1, I'd like to quickly go through some honorable mentions. Outlast 1 and 2. Honestly, this whole premise of the game of using a video camera and no way to defend yourself and surrounded by a multitude of monsters as well as religious cult hints here and there was what made the game popular and works for the game's plot and storyline extremely well. Also, if you plan on playing this game, especially at night, adult diapers are highly necessary because you're gonna crap and pee all over the damn place if you play this game, especially in the dark, and especially at night. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. And this is the game that made PewDiePie popular in the first place, and what kickstarted his whole YouTube career. Guy's a dad now. Very scary. Another game where you can't defend yourself against the monsters. Scary, overly horrifying, but overall fun. Corpse Party. Never really played it, but it looks interesting. Anime RPG horror games? Yes, please. Lollipop Chainsaw. Not really horror, but has horror elements, and more of a horror/dark comedy, and is more spooky rather than horror. A silly but fun game, and one of my personal favorites. The Silent Hill franchise. I'm more of a fan of the movies. Yes, I know a lot of people will say they're bad, but those movies are my fucking jam. Screw you, I don't care! But the games are equally as good. Plus, Pyramid Head, while popular with the fangirls, is terrifying, and rightfully so! And is also the Silent Hill mascot. Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion. Cutest horror game ever, and proof that even the most loud, obnoxious, and cutesy and horrifying images and noises can spook you pretty good and can get you places. Doki Doki Literature Club. If I don't have this, people will probably come for my head. Frambo. A charming storybook adventure about demons and psychosis. Super classic fun for the whole family. Mr. Hop's Playhouse. What is up with the demonically possessed toys that not only scare the hell out of me, but are now popularized thanks to the Annabelle Conjuring and Megan films? Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. Like with Doki Doki, if I don't have this one, people will come for my head, and also, the scariest thing about this game is the constant fuckery it does during the gameplay and screws with your mind and your sanity. Oh, I get why it has sanity in its title now. I get it. Alice in Wonderland: The Madness Returns. Tim Burton probably got heavily inspired by not just the novel of the original and the OG Disney film of Alice in Wonderland, but also wanted to take the gothic aesthetic this game has to add to the one he's known to heavily put into his films, and I wouldn't put it past him. This game is horrifying and horrifyingly good. Also, the entire game itself is beautiful. The Puppet Playtime franchise. Yet another one involving possessed toys, out-of-control AI, haunted facility, and mascot horror. But I'm not complaining with the introduction to the adorable smiling critters and Catnap the Crafticorn being my two favorites out of all the critters. Along with the intro to the Frowny Fiends. Raby Baby is freaking adorable, by the way. The Fatal Frame franchise. Like with Outlast, your only weapon of defense is a camera, and taking pictures of the ghoulies is the only way to defeat them. And I am begging all of you that if you have a game system that the game was created for, or Steam account, if the games are available on there, to try them out for yourselves. Now then, on to the number one pick for this list. Mad Father. Yeah, the original was scarier than the remake, and the remake is not as scary, but it still deserves to be number one on this list. I'm currently doing a Let's Play on the game on this channel, and I remember coming home from school every day to watch PewDiePie play this game when it first came out on Steam. You play as a little girl named Aya, daughter of what appears to be a doctor, and on the night prior to your mother's death, you find the house is haunted by ghosts and monsters. This is all due to your father's mysterious work as a quote-unquote doctor, and the vengeful spirit of your mother is seeking what appears to be revenge for what seems to be an affair with his assistant Maria. So, I won't spoil anything until you either watch a bunch of Let's Plays of the game, including mine, or play the game yourself, but it's up to you to solve the mystery of your father's work and to save him from the vengeful spirit of your deceased mother, and to put her spirit to rest. Also, fun fact, the character Aya is where I got the name for one of my personas. The more you know!
Boo!
Well, that does it for another video. If you have a favorite horror game you didn't see or wanted to see on here, share in the comments below. That being said, time for me to kick back, relax, and play some spooky ooky games. Take it away, outro! Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. And if you want to be notified for occasional videos, or every single time I upload something, just ring the little bell next to the subscribe button. Big thank you to my level 1 Patreons, Pikachu and Typo Toy Drill. If you want to support me in the things I do, links to my Patreon and Ko-fi pages will be in the description box below. Warning that my Patreon is 18 plus only, but my Ko-fi is 100% safe work and is rated E for everyone. If you want to send me some fan art and want to have it featured in this video, be sure to follow and tag me on any and all my social medias within a link tree linked in the description box below. Thank you all so much for watching this video once again, and I will see you in the next one, pups. And as always, stay awesome, strong, and beautiful little puppies. Later!